Welcome to the BA Coaches Show. Welcome for another episode. This is an episode I'm very excited about today. We have a really big guest. Our first college coach, Coach Chris Jones. He coaches at Mercyhurst University over in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm very excited to get to talk to him. Very excited for you guys to get to see him a little bit. This dude is one of the hardest workers, especially in the recruiting world. I mean, obviously, I know he works hard coaching too, but I see this dude recruiting on Twitter all the time. He travels all over recruiting kids. He's one of the best. I'm excited for you guys to get to meet him today. He's a great college coach, and I'm glad to get to talk to him. This is one of the first times I talked to him through social media quite a bit, and we text back and forth. But this is one of the first times I've had a good time to sit and talk with him a little bit. And I know it was over a video call. That was still a really cool thing to get to do, sit and talk with him for a while. So I'm glad you guys get to see that. Before we get into everything, remember, rev your engines and join us at the annual Paola Heartland Car Show. There's something for every car enthusiast to admire. Come see the hottest rides on display and mingle with fellow car lovers. Don't miss out on this thrilling event. Mark your calendars now because it's coming up on June 8th at the historic Paola Square. Yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys really enjoy this. Remember, we got big things coming up. We had to move since we didn't do an episode last week. We're getting Coach Jones on today. Next week, we're going to have our guest from last week. So just had to switch some things around. But hey, it's all good. We're going to have good stuff coming up on the podcast. I hope you guys really enjoy this one. Welcome, Coach Jones, to the BA Coaches Show. I got to say, I am excited to have you on today. You're a guy that, right away, as soon as I wanted to do this, I was like, I can talk to Coach Jones. He's the one I want to get on here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you for coming here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me, man.
So one of the things I kind of ask every single coach that have had on here and I'm gonna have on here, just kind of give me a little bit of your background and how did you get to where you're at today?
Yeah, man. A lot of prayer and perseverance. That's where I want to start for one. But definitely, I started right out of college. Started coaching football. Started at Helias Catholic. Coached there for 4 years and got to learn and got to experience and get my foot in the door with a lot of the experiences that they gave me for those 4 years there. Got to coach a multitude of positions while I was there as well. Started off on the offensive side of the ball, helping out with the skill positions, and then moved over to the defensive side. Um, Helped on the back end a lot since I did play safety at the high school level. And some linebackers. So I really helped those guys from that perspective uh, once I got over to the defensive side. Um, and then I also got the opportunity while I was there in those 4 years. We ended up winning the state championship, and that was
There you go.
that was actually pretty cool winning the championship there. Um, and then after those 4 years were up, I made the tough decision to leave. And when I say tough, I mean it was very tough, um, very family oriented program. But I ended up leaving and going to Quincy University to coach some
Mhm.
sprint football. Coach was the defensive coordinator there for 2 years and had a lot of different hats and stuff going on there. And was there for 2 years. And uh, I mean, shoot, got my opportunity in the door as a college coach. So I was very grateful for that and the experiences that I learned there as well. But after those 2 years, we decided to go in a different direction. And now I'm here at Mercyhurst. I've been here all of a month now and making a big transition
Yeah.
for me and I can say the overall school and the program in itself.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. So whenever I kind of found out about you on
Mhm.
Twitter, whatnot. That's kind of how I talked to you quite a bit on Twitter. You were
Yeah,
at Quincy, and I knew nothing about sprint football whatsoever.
yeah,
Literally, just our interactions on Twitter. I felt like I learned a lot about what sprint football was. So you kind of introduced that to me, and that was cool for you to be able to make that transition into coaching at the college level. So something I kind of wanted to ask you was,
yeah.
when you got into coaching, did you know you wanted to get to the college level, or was that just something that just kind of happened?
Yeah, my big thing when I started coaching, my big thing that I always thought about doing was recruiting.
Hmm.
And I mean, at the high school level, you can't recruit. You can't, you just got to you just got to coach what's presented to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I always knew I wanted to be a recruiter and go out and travel and go to different cities and fly out to different states and
Mhm.
go visit kids and go meet their families. So that was always the big thing that I always like yearned for. Once I did get my foot in the door as a coach, um, that was the difference maker. I think in the last couple years that I've been at the college level, I've really enjoyed the amount of people I've met, the amount of culture I've been a part of, um, the different diversity of youth across the country, right? So you just get introduced to so many different people and different types of cultures when you're going out and recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah, I see you on Twitter all the time. You're a recruiting machine, man.
Yeah,
And I think you do a great job at it. One of the questions, this isn't like just for the podcast question. This is a
yeah,
genuine from me question I have for you. What does a typical day like? You're out, I don't know, you have your recruiting areas. What's a typical day recruit and like, right now you're kind of in like recruiting season, you know what I mean? Like what's a
yeah.
typical day look like for you during that?
Man, I can say this. I never put down my phone. I can say that much. So I'm always on Twitter. I'm always trying to promote the program, always trying to like advertise the program. Um, and with that being said, with that advertisement comes the recruits, right?
Mhm.
And you build the relationships and you try to reach out that way through social media, and you try to use that as a platform, right? And then when I'm not on my phone, usually I'm on the road, man. I'm traveling. My main area right now is Central PA, so I'm
Mhm.
traveling like literally 5 hours across the state from time to time, and trying to hit every high school as much as possible, and um trying to talk to coaches and trying to show face and trying to basically build those relationships and pipelines so that when coaches have a player that's like, oh man, this is my star player, well, I'll be the first one they'll call, right?
Yeah,
Because we've
yeah,
built so
yeah.
much of a relationship and so much of a pipeline that they know I'm gonna take care of their guys, and they know that we have a common goal of trying to get those kids graduated and whatever else goal they want to get to, whether it's playing the league or go be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, right? It, my main thing is it's all about them, right? It's all about the player, the kid, the student athlete.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I really like that answer. Something that working with high school kids, anytime they get done talking to a college coach, I always ask them like, "What are the vibes?" We like the vibes,
Yeah,
we don't like the vibes, and I think that's a really important thing. And you building relationships with students, but also like high school coaches. I think that's really important, at least from my perspective, being like,
yeah,
"Hey, I have a kid and I'm like, hey, I trust this coach right here. And if I send you there, I think, you'd be in good hands. I think that's really important. And I know you do a really good job of that. Something else I was kind of wondering about on the recruiting side,
mhm.
like what is something for like at your level, like what's something that you're looking for in a potential recruit, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, first it starts off with character traits, right? Character traits of uh, what kind of person is this person? What kind of
Yeah.
person is this athlete, right? Are they a team player or they a me person? Or they only care about themselves, right? Are they worried about more of their ego rather than the team? Are they a we or a me person, right? That's how I like to put it. Then of course you're looking at their GPA, right?
Mhm.
You're looking at like where where is the 3.0s, where are the 3.5s, 2.7s kind of iffy, right, when we start getting into those two areas,
Mhm.
but you're definitely looking for somebody that's put in the work in the classroom, right, and then puts in the work on the field as well. And with that third part of it is what's on their film, right? Are they producing on the field?
Hmm.
Um, but you realize in that order, right? You're looking for character, you're looking for the GPA, then you're looking for what's on the field, right?
Hmm.
So I think in that order, that's a big
Yeah.
perspective that we always try to take when we're looking for these kids and recruiting these kids.
Yeah, for sure. Something that I've always heard from coaches that have been doing it shoot longer than I've been alive, right? Something
Hmm.
I always hear is when a college coach comes in, whether it's the tiny local school or whether it's Alabama or Georgia or Texas, whoever, when those coaches come in, they don't ask you how good of a football player is he, or like how much does he do, how much can he bench. It's like, hey, I can go find all that stuff out. A
Right.
lot of the things like what's his character, what's his GPA like,
Yeah.
how does he treat his backup quarterback, things like that. And
Yeah.
so that's something I'm glad that that's something that you feel strongly about as well. That's something that I've always heard. Like I said, for guys that have been doing it longer than I've been alive, they've always said, I've had the biggest of the big coaches in here, and they never ask about how good of a football player you are because they can figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's something if any like I know I'm gonna have like high school football players listen to this. I think it's really important to make sure that like you are a good person, and two, like do that thing because even if it's the little things you think your like high school coaches aren't noticing, we notice, and then we tell guys, like you that come in. Um, so once
Well,
you get these guys, sorry, go ahead.
let me tell you this. The interesting part about it is we're in the people we're in a people job field,
Yeah.
or this is our career path, right? We're dealing with people and dealing with building relationships and communicating, right? Whenever you have to deal with a person XYZ, who no matter who it is, right? You want to see how somebody, talks to this person, treats this person. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
it's one
yeah.
of those things of you always want to make sure that somebody is being respectful to other people, right?
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, we're all individuals that have to come together as a team and unite as a team to find a common goal, right? So
Yeah,
that's a big thing. Character is a big thing.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So you said you've been at Mercyhurst about a month, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so you're the second coach I've had on that's like joining or joined a new staff, and this
yeah.
other guy was a high school coach. So I'm kind of curious if it's any different for you. Once you decide you're joining a new college football staff, right? What's like your first couple things that you do? You know what I mean? Obviously, you like meet all the guys and everything, but like, what are some things you're checking off your checklist?
Yeah, man. It's to tell you the truth, it's crazy because it's a big adjustment, depending on the distance or where you're going, right? Wherever that team is. I just
Mhm.
traveled from Illinois to Pennsylvania, so I'm still in the process of making an adjustment on the
Yeah.
personal side. But walking in the door, you're just trying to just get a feel of everybody, right? Just trying to introduce yourself, trying to see where they come from, right? Just trying to
Mhm.
understand them. Um, and I think that's part of that. Like I said, the people effect. You got to know who you're working with. You got to build that relationship. I think with any type of transition, you also have to learn the system. You have to learn the playbook. You have to try to figure out where they are in their recruiting process, right? Where they are in their process, and you got to basically play the catch up game. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last month is trying to play the catch up game at
Yeah.
this from work, and then trying to get adjusted on the personal side of it and trying to get all my stuff moved up and everything. So I can say it's a difficult transition, but it's well worth it. It's one of those things of, I mean, that's just part of life, right? Sometimes when stuff is like too easy to go through, um, it's probably doesn't have as much value as something that's more grueling or a little bit difficult to go through. So I could definitely say it's been a process, but I've loved every minute of it.
Yeah. So when you go through this, once you have your guys, like you're going through your spring ball and all that, how do
Yeah.
you? This is kind of some advice, I guess, that you could have towards like some of your college guys that are like, how do you balance that college academics and college athletics? Because let's be real, college athletics, especially nowadays, is damn near just a full time job, right?
Yeah.
You got to put so much into it. As a coach, like how do you make sure your guys are balancing that?
You know what? To tell you the truth, the athlete has to balance it, but us
Hmm.
coaches, we have to emphasize it. We have to
Yeah.
emphasize that yes, you are a student before you are an
Hmm.
athlete. Yes, you have to go to class. Yes, you have to be on time. Yes, you have to do all these other things off the field before you can do everything on the field,
Yeah.
right? And I'm a big believer in, like, let's say, quote unquote, you're talking about a team that lacks discipline, right, or lacks some type of accountability on the field, right? I'm a big believer that a lot of those characteristics are built off the field,
Hmm.
right? You
I'm
look at it.
100% with you.
Yeah, yeah. You're looking at, are they going to class on time? Are they doing their assignments? Are they prompt? Are they talking to their teachers? Are they proactive or reactive to things? Right? And a lot of that stuff translate to the field, right? So it's one of those things of, yes, the student athlete has to balance out being a student athlete, but I think the important thing for us as coaches, we have to emphasize that you are a student before you are an athlete.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. And I don't want to say like coaches do a crappy job of that. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I feel like sometimes that gets lost in things. And I do 100% think that translates directly to the field. And some of the most successful, like on the field teams I've ever seen also have like some of the highest like team GPA. And
Yeah,
like, sometimes I've seen some of those schools that like their team GPA has been really low. And I just feel like a lot of those characteristics of taking control, like in the classroom and all the aspects of your life, directly translate. And that's why, I mean, personally, that's why I love the game of football so much, right? Because there's so many
yeah,
freaking life lessons that come from football. And I feel like if you can be successful in the sport of football, you can take so many of those lessons
yeah.
into life. And I feel like, I mean, I can't speak for you, but I feel like that's part of the reason I coach is to try and impact these lives and, guide them through some of that. And, at least that's just my perspective.
Coach, I can say this too. I can say this. Here's a big thing, right? If we're recruiting a kid, right, and they make it up to this level, okay, we already know you have the abilities to play at this level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's all about, like, when you're at this level, everybody has talent. Everybody has some type of skill that got them this high, right? What sets you apart is being a student of the game, right? And work ethic. Those are the two things that start setting you apart, right? So talent can only carry you so far, right? And this is where film study comes into play even more, right? Working out, making sure you're putting the right things in your body. A lot of that stuff is part of being a student of the game, just like being a student athlete in itself. Whether you're in the classroom or in the film room, all that stuff will translate to the field.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree, and I do think something that I really try and preach to my high school kids, especially the ones like freshman, sophomore. They're trying to gain all this weight. They're trying to do things the right way, and they
Yeah,
think they are. And then you try and talk to them a little bit, and it's like, "Hey, what have you ate today?"
yeah,
And it's sometimes we're like, "Oh, I had a Big Mac," and then that's it. So I'm like, "So you're not only not eating a lot, you're eating crap." You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And so I feel like if you're gonna fully be dedicated to this great sport of football that we both love so very much, a lot of those things will translate and can get you to the next level and be able to after football's done, because football ends for all of us at some point, right?
yeah,
Even if you go into coaching, like hell, we're both done playing. Once football ends, like you have to be able to take some of these lessons and to become a successful man. A good father, a good husband.
yeah.
And I feel like that's part of our job as coaches is to make sure we instill that in these young men. At least that's just how I feel about it, and I think you feel the same way.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely some of the lessons um, that you learn throughout your time of being around these men and women who coach this sport. But I also like to think that football is a sport for life, right? It can teach
Yeah.
you a lot of life lessons
Hmm.
within the game of football, right? Whether it's getting through adversity, whether it's pushing through, whether it's uh, showing up at a 6 o'clock practice when you know you just 6 a.m. practice when you know you
Hmm.
want to just sleep in, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with work. When you don't want to get up for work at 7 a.m., but you still show up and you show up on time, right? And you show up with a good attitude. So um, that's the same thing. It translates, right? Football, the lessons that you learn from football will definitely translate to life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You might not be hitting a bag, right, in life,
Hmm.
but you will learn like discipline and stuff like that from the game of football.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I also think a big thing is being able to like be a part of the team and build relationships with people. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's actually something kind of cool that I feel like you probably get to experience quite a bit more at the college level than I do at the high school level. Because like when I get these kids at the high school level, like a lot of these guys have been around each other forever. I think at the college level, you guys probably get to, as coaches, get to kind of view a really cool experience of all these guys coming in from literally hundreds of different backgrounds coming in, mixing in together towards one common goal. And again, I feel like
well,
that's what the sport of football is all about.
that's the big thing about college is that you exactly hit it on the head. Like, and at the high school level, you have a lot of kids that possibly grew up together or grew up in the same culture, same environment together, you know. But at the college level, you're getting guys from all across the nation, even possibly across the world. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have international students that play football too. So so not only from the student perspective or the student athlete perspective, you also get coaches, right?
Mhm.
Like I said, I just came from Illinois, and I'm originally from St. Louis. I came from the Midwest to Pennsylvania, right? I got so many coaches from Georgia, got coaches from uh, further north from here, right? Got coaches that come from Texas and California and all these different locations. And that's why it's very important to build the relationship, right? Because we come
Mhm.
from all these different cultures. We have to find some type of common ground or some type of understanding because what might happen in Pennsylvania might not happen exactly the same in St. Louis
Yeah.
or exactly the same in California. So you learn how people are wired and learn how people handle things through just building a relationship, really. And it's actually that's the fun part about being a college coach is you hear a coach he was at I don't know he was at Alabama for a little while, right? And then you get to question him and pick his brain about all his experiences under quote unquote Nick Saban at the time, right? Just giving the example. But
Yeah. Yeah.
those are some of the things that really like can blow your mind away because it's like wow, like this guy was here, this guy was here, this guy was here, and I get to actually like pick their brain and learn from them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that's some of the really cool things. And I also feel like sometimes, especially when you first get to know some of these guys that have coached at like a bigger level, sometimes you're like, "Whoa, we're even speaking the same language." And then
But,
you get to know a guy for a long time, and then like you learn from him, you do all this stuff, and it's like, hey, that's a great thing. We're all learning the sport of football together. Something I
yeah,
always like to say is the day that I stop learning is the day that I need to get the hell out of this thing. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Because the game has passed me by. If I can go a day literally, I don't even have to be on the field. If I go a single day without learning something in football, that means this sport has passed me by. And that's the
yeah,
great thing I love talking. Like that's the reason this podcast exists is that I can bring guys in from all over the country, like you, like things, and just like pick your brain a little bit, and kind of get some things on how you work.
yeah.
That's why I have this thing is to try and bring guys in and talk. So you being at the college level, what are some, and you have been at the high school level, what are some of the challenges that you have, like I don't even know if challenges is the right word, but what are some more obstacles I guess you have at the college level as opposed to the high school level, and how do you just overcome that if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, over time you learn things, and they're not really challenges anymore.
Hmm.
Believe it or not, like I mean, I have a fear of. I mean, I have had a fear of public speaking, right? I mean, shoot, I can't say that's a fear anymore, but I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know. It's just something over time you just kind of get used to. Or
Hmm.
let's just say you struggle with being organized or being structured. Well, guess what? I mean, it's one of those things of you either learn it and develop it, or you get put out.
Yeah, yeah,
You're out of it
yeah,
real quick. So the stuff that turns the stuff that's challenging, um, usually you either learn it really quickly or you learn from a lot of the stuff that you could have done better, right? um but really you get a lot of, if anything, it's more of adversity that happens rather than all these different challenges. I mean, that's kind of hard to try to
yeah.
try to differentiate, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So kind of moving towards some on the field stuff. Um, when you go through your, everyday coaching philosophy, like actually coaching your position on the field, doing all that,
Yeah.
how do you, what is kind of your coaching philosophy? And so I'll say for me, a lot of my things is, and this guides me on and off the field. I
Yeah.
am so big on you have to build relationships with your guys, right?
Yeah.
Uh, to me, it's like they don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah.
That's a phrase that like I have written down on a piece of paper I look at every day. I probably won't get that tattooed on me, but if I was gonna get a phrase tattooed on me about coaching, it'd probably be that one, right?
Yeah.
So something I'm big on is like I said, your players need to know that you care about them before they're ever gonna care about what you know as a coach. So
Yeah.
that's just me personally. Kind of my coaching philosophy is before anything X's and O's, like we got to be on some sort of level. I got to trust them and they have to trust me. So kind of what is your, kind of coaching philosophy on how you build relationships with your guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it starts, right? Sometimes you just, I mean, before it even gets to the field, sometimes you just need to call them in your office and just sit there and have just a conversation with them, right?
Hmm.
To learn about their family. Do they have siblings? Do they have a dog? What's their favorite food? What's their favorite color? Just learn them, right?
Hmm.
Learn about them before you can even talk about football. Just learn about your guys, right?
Yeah.
I think that's very important, and it's one of those things of um, know the human side before you just start quote
Yeah.
unquote barking orders, you
Yeah.
know, because I mean you can bark all you want if they don't want to listen. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
I
matter.
always say, yeah, I always say, like, you can't coach them hard until they love and trust you. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
Yeah,
you're just being an asshole. You know
yeah,
what like? That's just what it is. So yeah, that's something I feel pretty strongly about. Something I always try and do is like I said, like anytime I'm not like on a field or in a film room, whatever, I try to talk about anything but football.
yeah,
Like we have enough time talking football, going through things. I try and talk to my players about anything except football when we're not, in that
yeah,
type of space. Um, so kind of as we kind of get pushing here towards the end, I kind of had a couple like what advice do you have for anyone that's listening to this? Because we're gonna have coaches listening to this that like
yeah.
are wanting to get into college. Maybe they're at the high school level now and they want to get to college coaching. Like, what are some advice you have for some guys that want to become a college coach one day?
Yeah, man. I'm shoot. I'm still trying to, I'm still listening to my own words, but
Yeah.
definitely network. I mean, anytime you hear about a coaching clinic, try to make it there. Whether it's
Hmm.
the Glaziers or the AFCAs
Yeah.
or some type of local clinic, or even have an opportunity to talk on a podcast, do it, right? Just
Hmm.
try to find a way to network. Try to get your name out there. Um, it usually helps if you have some type of business card. If not, have your social media on hand, have your phone on hand. Constantly just try to network. right? The next thing, uh, always look on sites like Football Scoop and Indeed and stuff like that
Yeah.
for job opportunities, right? I mean, there are a lot of entry level opportunities at the
Yeah.
college level, right? Um, Based on like, I mean, whatever you looking for personally, but you do have a lot of entry level positions at the college level for those who want to climb the ladder. So definitely take advantage of that stuff. And when it comes to looking at your application, guess what? Whenever you networked with this person, or you networked with this person, or you knew of this person, well, you start name dropping, and sometimes that helps you get your application
Mhm.
across the main man's desk. So
Yeah.
network and keep constantly looking for job openings. I
Mhm.
mean, that's the two big things, man. That's the two big things.
Yeah, I think whether I mean, you might disagree, you might agree. I feel like at the college level or the high school level, both. I feel like there's a real big need right now for good, solid coaches. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I mean, I haven't looked at the college game as much, but I feel like that's probably the same there, just from a lot of the jobs. I feel like there's places still looking at jobs. So I feel like if you're a good, solid coach, networking and just being a professional day in and day out can get you there. I really do. Um, so kind of one of the last couple questions I had for you was, I kind of try and like asking all coaches this just to kind of
Yeah.
get you going. What's like one of the most memorable moments on or off the field as a coach that like you've had? And I'll share with you one of mine once if you want to give your answer.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I got two of them, man. Like,
Mhm.
what was it? Was it last year? We're playing. I forgot who we're playing, and the quarterback is a freshman quarterback. Uh, and he probably, this is his first college game or whatever, and he's kind of nervous or whatever, and he's trying to play the best he can. He's playing relatively good, right? But quote unquote, everybody hates the first interception, right? He
Mhm.
throws his first interception, and me being a defensive coordinator, I just walk over to him, and I just laugh, and I just smile at him, and I just say, "Hey, you finally got it out the way, huh? You finally threw your first one." And he just kind of smiles at me. He kind of laughs at me. Well, his mom ended up getting a picture of that interaction,
Mm.
and I have that as my screensaver on my phone from that interaction, because I mean, he smiled and just, I mean, defense
Mhm.
got to stop. He smiled, went back out there and threw a touchdown. So I mean, it is what it is, right? So that was one of my interactions that was pretty cool. And then last year also, on my birthday, we played a team in Ohio, because I remember this because I got to go to Canton, Ohio that day, and that was pretty
Mm.
cool on my birthday.
Mhm.
Um, but no, one of the guys came up to me and he was just like, "Man, coach, happy birthday. And I appreciate you recruiting me, man. You saved my life. Like, for real. So that's always gonna stick with me when he told me, "Hey, coach, you saved my life. You got me out of this situation, and you helped me get here. So I appreciate you." So that's something I'll always remember as well.
Yeah, so I'll kind of share with you. I shared a little bit of this story if there's return listeners, but I'll share it with you. So, this last football season, I think it was like week 6 or 7, somewhere in there, we were playing against my hometown, right?
Mm-hmm.
I coach about at school, like 15, 20 minutes north of there. And we were playing, and we do a little every like week night before the game, we bring guest speaker into like we call it player development and kind of talking. Well, I was the guest speaker that week, right? And I came in and I shared a bit of my life story. And our theme that week was overcoming adversity and perseverance. And
Yeah.
I can't lie, I talked a lot of smack. Um, I talked a lot of smack on some things. I let out some emotions I'd had in for a while, and I gave I mean I'll just say it. I thought it was a pretty good speech, right? I got the boys
Yeah.
all fired up. But during that game, just every interaction I had with the player of just like, someone makes a big sack. My boy, I'll shout him out. Keanu TFL makes a big sack. comes
Yeah.
up, starts flexing, runs over to me, gives me a big old hug, right? It felt really good. We put up 63, running clock in high school football. It was
Yeah.
one of the greatest nights of my life outside of my children being born, right? But honestly, just that whole week felt so good. Just the way the kids, kind of rallied around me a little bit at just being like, hey, man, sometimes you're going to get knocked down and people are going to tell you can't do things. And now here we are. And I feel like we showed that by putting up 63 on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's one of the things. One of these days, I'm going to be an old man, maybe on my deathbed one day, and I'm going to be able to look back at that first time we played against Paola and just how good that felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the last question I kind of had for you, looking ahead in kind of your future. I mean, obviously, you have your short term, but like, what are some of your long term like goals and aspirations in your coaching career? I'll just tell you, for me personally, like one of these days, I want to be a head high school football coach. Right, that's a
Yeah.
dream that I've had since I was in middle school or probably even younger. I've known from ever that's kind of what I want to be. So I'm trying to do the steps I can to try and build up to that one day.
Yeah.
So what are kind of some of your goals and aspirations long term for your career?
Yeah. So my big thing is I want to make college football, coaching college football, my career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, right? It's hard with stability. It's hard with the longevity, um, different pay scales, et cetera, et cetera. Just one of my general goals is just to make a career out of college football
Mm-hmm.
and being able to affect and impact all these people's lives through recruiting. Excuse me. Um, but definitely just making this a long term coaching career. Yes, I did enjoy the high school level, but I really love the college level of it. Excuse me, of recruiting and getting to know and build relationships with other people. I could definitely say like I mean I don't need to get rich off of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to get rich off of this career path, but I mean I think it has more value when you have impact on all these other people's lives, um, being at the college level. I always told myself at my deathbed, the only thing I can really ask for is seeing all the people I had an effect on at some point in life, uh, just to see me one last time, you know. Whether I was already in a casket and all these guys coming together or what, but yeah, just being able to witness all the people I affected and had a positive impact on in my life come together on when I'm dead and gone or moving,
Yeah.
passed
Yeah.
on. So that's a big
No, I
thing.
agree. That's something I've thought about as well, actually, of just, sometimes when I'm, kind of dealing with my own personal demons, I just think about like, man, think about all the I'm not trying to brag, but like think about all the lives I've affected in a positive way by
Yeah,
just being a positive influence, sharing my story a little bit. Like think of all the good things you did. And that's something that I, take very personally. That's something I try and do every single day. So
yeah,
I completely agree with you. I really liked your answer there. But yeah, that was all I had for you. So tell the people that are listening, like, where can we find you on, social media stuff? Because you're very active on Twitter, and I love it.
yeah. I mean, I can't remember my LinkedIn right off the top of my head, but I mean, the LinkedIn is attached to my Twitter. My Twitter is at Coach Jones 256. Very simple, very short and sweet. So, I mean, um, you send me a message. Hopefully, I get back to you. But my DMs are completely flooded. So,
Oh yeah, oh
uh,
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of that's where we're at. So,
Hey, I know your DMs are flooded because here's the thing: if I comment on like one of your posts on Twitter or whatever, I
yeah,
will have kids message me and say, "Hey, You get hey,
Yeah,
send this to Coach Jones. Hey, whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm just commenting on your thing.
yeah,
So I know your DMs are flooded because if I comment on something, I start getting DMs telling me to get a hold of you.
yeah, yeah. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Oh man.
yeah. But thank you again for joining us. I'd love to have you on again sometime. I thought you were great. I'm excited to see all the great things you do at Mercyhurst. I'm excited for you. But yeah, that was all I had, and thank you guys for tuning in to the BA Coaches Show.